time is precisely 6:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Dulwin Samarasinghe and read by Rumesh Pires. The headlines. The inflation based on the Colombo Consumer Price Index decreases. The Parliament Committee discusses the easing of doing business index. The Ministry of Agriculture implements a plan to encourage agri-product exporters. The revised consular fees for attestation of documents will be effective from next month. English letters indicating the province on vehicle number plates will be removed. And in news overseas, Kosovo and Serbia agree to dismantle barricades after talks. In sports, tributes pour in for the late football legend Pele. Now the local news in detail. The Department of Census and Statistics said the year-on-year inflation based on the Colombo Consumer Price Index decreased to 57.2% in December. The department said in comparison to the 61% seen in November, the inflation was down by 3.8% in December. Meanwhile, food inflation decreased to 64.4% in December from 73.7% recorded last month. Officials representing 8 presidential task forces established under the Presidential Secretariat to enhance the ease of doing business in Sri Lanka. Recently, they presented the issues and proposals to the Select Committee of Parliament to study the practical problems and difficulties that have arisen in relation to enhancing the rank in the Ease of Doing Business Index in Sri Lanka. The committee met in Parliament recently under the chairmanship of MP Madhura Vithanage. Promoting online systems, reducing human involvement, reducing time spent and increasing efficiency were discussed at length. Parliament's Communication Department said the committee's attention was also drawn to the issues existing in the judicial sector regarding the facilitation of business in Sri Lanka and the related solutions. The Ministry of Agriculture is implementing a plan to encourage the agri-product exporters. This was disclosed at a meeting between the Minister of Agriculture and entrepreneurs in the field of agriculture exports. Sri Lanka's engagement in the field is minimum as the products in the island do not fulfill the requirements of the international market. The minister added that the government is doing its best to facilitate agri-production. Ministry of Foreign Affairs says the revised consular fees for attestation of certificates and documents will be effective from January 1st next year. Accordingly, the fees charged for attestation services by the Consular Affairs Division of the Foreign Ministry in Colombo, regional consular officers and Sri Lanka missions abroad have been revised. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news. Department of Motor Traffic Commissioner General Nishantha Veerasinghe said today the demerit point system for the driving license will be introduced before March next year. He said the demerit point system will help reduce road accidents. He said the drivers would get demerit for 32 offences, and if 24 such points were deducted from a certain driver, his driving licence would be suspended for 1 year. A new vessel with a cooling system has been invented. The cooling system is expected to minimize the post-harvest loss caused to fish harvest. A media briefing was held today to make the public aware of this invention at the Department of Government Information. Joining the media briefing, State Minister P.R. Nishantha said this will provide the opportunity to supply quality fish products to the public. Former President of the Students' Union of Peradeniya University, Anuradha Vithanage, has been remanded until January 4th next year. He was produced before the Kandy Magistrates Court today. He was arrested by the Criminal Investigations Department yesterday in connection with the assault on the former Vice-Chancellor of the university, Professor Atula Senaratne. Former Presidential Advisor on Parliamentary Affairs, Ashumara Singh, has demanded a compensation of 1.5 billion rupees from his estranged partner, Adarsha Karnadana, and Samagi Jana Balawege politician Herunika Premachandra. Accordingly, notices were served demanding 500 million from Karnadana and 1 billion rupees from Premachandra over recent claims made by them at a media conference held on 23rd December. And that concludes local news.
This story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to the main news story. English letters indicating the province on vehicle number plates will be removed when registering a new vehicle and transferring the ownership of a vehicle. Commissioner General of Motor Traffic Nishant Veerasinghe said today this will come into effect from January 1st next year. Customers as well as the Motor Traffic Department have encountered many difficulties since the number plates have to be changed at each instance when the ownership of the vehicles is transferred between provinces. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Live is brought to you by
Let's celebrate Christmas and New Year with CIB with special gifts, discounts and easy payment schemes available till 31st of December. Come to CIB today. In Watchlight this evening, Ministry of Foreign Affairs says the revised consular fees for attestation of certificates and documents will be effective from January 1st next year. Accordingly, the fees charged for attestation services by the Consular Affairs Division of the Foreign Ministry in Colombo, regional consular offices and Sri Lanka missions abroad have been revised. The revised fee structure was announced in a special Gazette notification on the 16th of last month by Foreign Minister Ali Sabri. And that came to you in Watchlight. A bulletin of world news is next. Let's celebrate Christmas and New Year with CIB with special gifts, discounts and easy payment schemes available till 31st of December. Come to CIB today.
World News brought to you by courtesy of
We give you the strength to rise higher and higher.
Never step back, but always march forward.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Moving on to the bulletin of world news, first the headlines. Kosovo and Serbia agree to dismantle barricades after talks. Republican George Santos facing investigations for lying about resume. Tributes paid for Queen of British fashion. Now the world news in detail. Tensions between Serbia and Kosovo appear to have eased following a discussion to remove barricades blocking the main border crossing. Ethnic Serbs in Kosovo began erecting the blocks on 10th December in protest at an ex-police officer's arrest. The decision to end the blockade was made after protesters held late-night talks with Serbia's president. A Republican congressman-elect is under investigation in New York after he admitted he lied about his education and work experience. The Republican district attorney for Nassau County said she will look into the numerous fabrications and inconsistencies on George Santos's CV. Allegations about discrepancies in his background were first made in a New York Times report last week. Mr. Santos is scheduled to be sworn in on the 3rd of January. Tributes to Dame Vivienne Westwood have poured in following the death of the undisputed Queen of British fashion. Her fashion house said in a statement that she died peacefully and surrounded by her family in London. Westwood, aged 81, made a name with a controversial punk and new wave style in the 1970s and went on to dress some of the biggest stars in fashion. Back to the headlines of the world news. Kosovo and Serbia agree to dismantle barricades after talks. Republican George Santos facing investigations for lying about resume. And tributes paid for Queen of British fashion. And that concludes World News.
World News brought to you by courtesy of
Amidst all challenges, we will rally around you and advance.
In the face of hardships, let's stand strong together.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Development News.
In development news, the government has allocated 550 million rupees to cultivate 14,000 acres of fallow paddy lands. These fallow paddy lands will be brought under the government and steps would be taken to cultivate them using the funds made available by the government. The government has decided to take over and cultivate 2,774 acres of paddy fields in the Matale, Nuwara Vavuniya, Kurunegala, Puttlam, Pandula and Monaragala districts, which have not been cultivated for 5 years, and 11,256 acres of fallow paddy lands from other districts. Accordingly, the department has been entrusted with the task of cultivating 14,000 acres of fallow paddy lands next year. And that was development news. Moving on to sports news, football. King Pele changed everything, says Brazil forward Neymar, as tributes poured in for the late footballing legend. Arguably the greatest player ever, Pele died at the age of 82 and current and former players took to social media to pay their respects. Neymar wrote on Instagram saying, "Before Pele, football was only a sport." He added, "Pele gave visibility to Brazil. Football and Brazil raised their status thanks to the King Pele. He's gone, but his magic will remain." France striker and Neymar's Paris Saint-Germain teammate Kylian Mbappe also described Pele as the king of football, adding his legend will never be forgotten. The only player to win the World Cup 3 times, lifting the trophies in 1958, 1962 and 1970. Pele was named FIFA's Player of the Century in 2000. Portugal's Cristiano Ronaldo said a mere goodbye to the eternal King Pele will never be enough to express the pain that is enveloping the whole of the football world right now. President of the United States, Joe Biden, said for a sport that brings the world together like no other, Pele's rise from humble beginnings to soccer legend is a story of what is possible. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro said sorrow for the passing of a man who, through football, took the name of Brazil to the world. He turned football into an art and joy. And that was Sports News.
Let us turn this difficult time that we are facing now to a positive opportunity. We must rise up as a nation in 2023. NSB will extend its fullest support for you to rise with confidence. NSB, the safest place for you.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, National Trade Protection Council, that represents over 30,000 small and medium-scale enterprises in Sri Lanka, has requested the government to intervene to extend their moratorium, which is ending tomorrow. President of the Council, G. Mahinda Pereira, said, according to available information, SMEs in the country have a total borrowing of nearly 1,000 billion rupees from banks and non-financial institutions. And that came to you in business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank.
Let us turn this difficult time that we are facing now to a positive opportunity. We must rise up as a nation in 2023. NSB will extend its fullest support for you to rise with confidence. NSB, the safest place for you.
Economic news, courtesy of...
For the 5th consecutive year, LOLC is awarded People's Financial Services Brand of the Year at the 2022 Slim Kantar People's Awards. As the People's Financial Services Brand of the Year, LOLC continues to place the customer first. And this has won the hearts, minds and trust of Sri Lankans, with yet another prestigious award as proof of this lasting commitment. LOLC, imagine the possibilities.
In economic news, the United States Agency for International Development coordinated with Kiel Supermarkets and Hatton National Bank on an innovative supply chain financing facility that supports micro, small and medium-sized enterprises in the food sector to access capital. Through greater access to capital, this facility reduces the supply chain disruptions that emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic and exacerbated by the country's recent economic crisis. And that was Economic News. The weather report is next.
LOLC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LOLC Finance claims the overall gold award, whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking.
Weather report.
And finally, moving on to the weather report, the Met Department says mainly fair weather will prevail over the island. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the central, Sabaragamuwa, Uva and western provinces and in the Gona and Mathura districts during the morning. And that was the weather report. And now to end this news broadcast, a recap of the main news headlines. The inflation based on the Colombo Consumer Price Index decreases. The Parliament Committee discusses the Ease of Doing Business Index. The Ministry of Agriculture implements a plan to encourage agri-product exporters. The revised consular fees for attestation of documents will be effective for English letters indicating the province on vehicle number plates will be removed. And in news overseas, Kosovo and Serbia agree to dismantle barricades after talks. And in sports, tributes pour in for the late football legend Pele. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.